In this video, we're going to take a look at the Lamy AL Star. So let's jump straight to the end with my thoughts on this pen. I enjoy writing with this pen. The triangular grip that some people will talk about as if it's a problem isn't any kind of a problem for me, but that is because of the way that I hold my pens. I like how robust this pen is, and while it's not my go-to all the time for writing, when I'm going out and I'm just riding around on a motorcycle for a day, this is the pen I will most frequently put into my pocket because I don't have to worry about this pen being damaged. It's also a pen that I can easily just hand to a student without having to really worry about it. It is easy to see why this pen is very collected. If you were to go look it up online, you're going to find that it's available in just about any color you're looking for, which is one of the reasons that there's a whole collector's world dealing with this pen alone. The fact that it writes great, it's easy to change the nibs, nibs are inexpensive, makes this without a doubt a winner in my collection. And while I've looked at downsizing, I've never considered getting rid of this pen. And I've used a lot of different pens, but I don't see ever getting rid of it. It's so utilitarian. Now that we know how I feel about the Lamy AL Star, let's see how I got to that opinion, starting with the unboxing. The Lamy AL Star comes in a very nice disposable cardboard box, which has been disposed of. While I no longer have the box, and that's because the box did exactly what it was supposed to do, it got the pen to me safely, and it just never dawned on me to keep it. This pen is strong enough in its own design that I didn't have to worry about putting it in something for safe storage. Solid building pen. With the pen out of the box, we need to get to the nib. And as long as it doesn't take 20 turns to uncap a pen, I'm generally okay. But how many turns does it take to uncap this pen? The Lamy AL Star is a pull cap. I like the quick uncapping of this pen, especially while working when I may be jotting short notes for a little bit. As a teacher, it's common for teachers to have a pen kind of hanging around their neck, and the cap is strong enough that when the pen is just dangling there all day, I don't have to worry about it accidentally coming out. So this is a very secure cap. This gets us to the nib. This pen has a steel fine nib on it. I mentioned it before about how easy it is to change the nib as an advantage of this pen. Now, this particular one is a fine nib, but you can easily make it into a broad or a stub with the complicated tools of a piece of Scotch tape. Huge advantage here, and nibs are under 20 bucks, so big win. Now, let's ink this pen up. The Lamy AL Star is a proprietary cartridge or converter system that holds approximately 1.1 milliliters of ink. The ink for today is Pilot's 100th Anniversary Yellow. Holding just over a milliliter of ink, I have no problem with using it for a day, although when I'm doing a lot of writing, I have written it out of ink quite a few times. It's not an uncommon thing to happen to me where I'm writing and then I can see it's getting empty, and it is. But 1.1 milliliters of ink is, generally speaking, plenty to get everybody through their day. As a habit, I don't normally post my pens, but some people prefer to post their pens, and some pens need to be posted in order to be used comfortably. This pen can post. I find that even though I don't need to, for some reason, I actually post this one all the time when I use it. It posts deep and secure so that there's not any kind of a problem, and I haven't had any issue with it marring the finish. If you enjoy videos like this, then be sure to hit the subscribe button. Now, the important part, the writing sample. Writing with this pen, one of the things that I do notice is it's not in itself the smoothest nib I've ever used, and it's not scratchy at all, and it only offers the tiniest bit of feedback. Now, I do enjoy feedback to the point that if my pen doesn't have it, I'll tend to add a little bit of feedback onto the nib, which is its own complicated mess. But I find their nibs to be absolutely acceptable. Out of the box, acceptable. It might not be your personal taste, but they write well, they perform well. I've gotten replacement nibs, never had a problem. So while these aren't generally for me the perfect nib out of the box, and they do perfectly work, they're easy to alter, they're nice to write with, and they're going to be reliable even for that replacement. Very nice to look at. The only complaint I could ever have about this nib is that the Lamy nibs are only for the Lamy pens, or pens that are mimicking their design, which brings in quite possibly a new advantage, because that means that there are nibs that might be able to fit on this to further expand what can go onto this pen. I definitely find that I use this a lot, especially either the fine or the stub when I'm out drawing, depending on what kind of variation I want to see in my lines. This always performs. I've never had this just all of a sudden not work, so it doesn't dry out in the cap. Now, as a side note on this pen, not really with the video, but I've seen a number of people that really like matching their Lamys with Kavekos. So it, for me, was regular to see Lamy Safaris or All Stars matched with Kaweco Sports. Really neat looking pair. Now for something a bit more standard in comparing writing size. I use Namiki Blue to do this. And here's how it compares to a Yovo Extra Fine on the left, a medium in the middle, and a 1.1 stub on the right. With the variety of nibs that are available for this pen at a really inexpensive cost, when we're looking at it, comparing it to other nibs, the greatest thing is when you see a nib width you want, you can get it onto this pen. Very inexpensive. Huge advantage to not need to get a whole new pen to try a different nib, which for some brands such as Sailor, you would need to do. But how does this nib compare to other nibs that I've used in writing size? Looking at the writing of a Lamy All Star with a fine nib, here it is next to a Namiki Emperor with a medium fine nib, a fountain pen Revolution Guru with what writes about like a medium, a Pilot Metropolitan with a medium nib, a Schaefer Pop Yodo, which is marked as a medium but writes just a little bit finer than that, and a fountain pen Revolution Muffed, which writes about like a medium fine. So it isn't a review without some size comparison. Here it is capped, here it is uncapped, and here it is posted. Seeing it next to the other pens, you can see that this is not a small pen by any means, but it is not oversized. It is really a great size as a pen, and I can understand why so many users like using it. I definitely enjoy using mine. This was the third one that I've actually purchased. Before we can ink this pen with a new ink, we need to clean it out. Be sure to check out the next pen review when we take a look at the Pilot Metropolitan. If you want to be able to support not just my channel, but any reviewer, then when you make a purchase, be sure to tell that retailer where you heard about it. Thanks for watching.